Oh, hello again. You're back. Okay, good. I've got a little bit of space in the syllabus, which is great because I have something I wanted to do. It's a little different. When you're giving a presentation, you do an interview, sometimes you might have trouble thinking of the right word to say. Of course, the best thing is just to expose yourself to a lot of English, reading a lot, listening to a lot of English media. Those are the best things for improving your English skills. It's about training your brain just to become more used to English so that it's better able to recall words that you need. So reading a lot of different things, stuff that you are interested in, a wide range of different kinds of reading materials, from like fun stuff. If you like reading comics in English, cool, that's fine. You like reading Harry Potter, that's cool, that helps. It's well-written literature. So from kind of comics to Harry Potter to newspapers to academic books in English, read a lot of different stuff in English. But again, it should be stuff that you would like, something you're interested in. Otherwise, it's going to be boring, and you won't have motivation. Another thing is to expose yourself to a lot of English media as much as possible. Again, a range of things from kind of entertainment stuff like your favorite pop songs to TED Talks and internet news, stuff like that, a wide range. So it's about training your brain to become more used to English and better able to like use words the right way in the right context and to know words. This will improve your vocabulary more than anything. Exposing yourself to a lot of English reading, a lot of English media. It's the best thing you could do for developing your English skills, and for maybe coming up with the right word when you need to use the right word when you're doing an interview or a presentation. Now, another little strategy is for kind of things that are more informal or semi-formal, like halfway formal. Formal is not like an academic paper where you need to be really formal and use formal vocabulary. Something that's a bit semi-formal or informal would be something like a class presentation or an interview. In that case, you can maybe fall back on more common words. So common nouns like man, woman, people, thing. That can be a useful strategy when you can't think of the right word to say. There are common nouns like thing, person, place, people, man, woman, things like that. Common pronouns like someone, something, anyone, everyone. And there are common verbs. And today I want to talk about these common verbs. As a linguist, I'm interested in these kinds of things. These really common verbs are called light verbs in linguistics. And it's good to know these because sometimes this is one type of word you can fall back on. What's the right word? Oh yeah, set. I'll just use that when I'm talking. You're talking, you just can't think of really the right academic word. Maybe one of these light verbs can work. What are light verbs? Common example is a verb like give, take, set, do. What's unique about these? The meaning is very general. What does do mean? Just do. It's hard to define because its meaning is pretty general. It's very broad. In other words, its meaning, it's semantically, in terms of semantics, semantics is not specific. The meaning of do or make is not very specific. If you look it up in a thesaurus for dictionary, a reference work for synonyms, like thesaurus.com, that's the best thesaurus probably. Look up do in a thesaurus and you'll find dozens or hundreds of synonyms or similar words. And for give, you find dozens of other words that have maybe somewhat similar meanings. And that's because a word like do or give, it has a very general meaning. There's not that much meaning in the verb itself. Do is just, I don't know, do. It's really hard to define that one actually. Be, well, it's like exist or estate or property. And give is maybe a little easier to define, but it was still pretty general. It's about something like presenting something to someone or transferring something to someone. But it's not really specific about who is giving what to whom or how, especially how somebody is giving something. It's not really specific about the manner or the context. It could be any context. Other verbs would be a lot more specific, like donate or contribute. They're more specific about the manner, how, about what, and like donate is usually like money or something like that. Contribute is often money or something of benefit to a particular group of people, and they're often more formal contexts. So there's the context. It's kind of more limited to who is doing the contributing or the donating. Give, anybody can give anything to anybody. So more with these verbs, more of the meaning is from what we call, I need to explain some linguistics here, what's called the semantic roles, and the set of semantic roles of maybe the subject and the object in a sentence. A technical term for a semantic role is an argument in linguistics, and so we talk about the argument structure. So you're probably confused, and that's okay. Let's just take a sentence like, Mary threw the ball to Tom. So Mary is, well, the sentence subject, that's a sentence, it's a grammatical function. But in terms of the meaning, at the meaning level, Mary is the one who's doing an action. She's what we call an agent. She's doing an action. Mary threw Tom a ball. A ball is a direct object, that's a grammatical function. Semantically, in terms of its role in the sentence, it's affected by the action. The ball is affected by the throwing. So we use this technical term called patient. A patient is something that is affected by an action, undergoes an action. A patient in a hospital is a person undergoing treatment or suffering from a disease or injury. So a patient is affected by an action. So this is a technical sense of patient. The word patient comes from Latin. It means to undergo something, to go through or to experience or suffer something. So the ball is directly affected by Mary's giving. Tom is an indirect object. That's the grammatical role. The semantic role here is, there are different terms, but a most common term is a dative. A dative is from Latin meaning giving. So the one to whom something is given. Some other books might, excuse me, some books might use another term like recipient, receiver, or something like that. As you're used to sentences where the subject is an agent, but the subject is not always an agent. If we say Santa Claus appeared, Santa Claus does not really do anything. He is it's like what the sentence is about. He's kind of like a theme. Mary is tired. So Mary's not doing anything. She's maybe what the sentence is about. She's kind of a theme. And we'll come back, this will actually come back to this kind of stuff later in the course maybe. Santa exists. Santa is alive. Santa is a theme. He's not doing anything. It's just what the sentence is about. So give, a verb like give, there's an agent like Mary. There's a dative or a receiver like Tom, and there's a patient object, the ball. So the meaning of a give comes a lot from this kind of framework. Agent, a giver, someone to whom something is given. the dative or the receiver, the recipient, and then the thing given, the object, patient object. So the meaning of give is really based on these semantic roles together. Other than that, the verb doesn't have much meaning. Do, there's just a subject. I did, or I did it. Maybe the it is an object, patient object, or something, and I'm the agent. I did it. But that's it. There's not much meaning to do besides that. I made it. A little bit more meaning, like made has some kind of meaning like create or manufacture, but that's about it. It's not specific about what kind of making or what kind of object was made. You can use it for anything. Other characteristics of light verbs, high frequency. They're highly frequent verbs in the language, especially in the daily spoken or colloquial language. And because of that, they're the verbs that children first learn in the language. Children first learn verbs like be, have, give, take, set. They're commonly used in phrasal verbs. Not all phrasal verbs are from light verbs, but many of them are. So a phrasal verb, something like up, around, or on is compounded with a verb to make a phrasal verb. Give up, give out, give in, take up, take on, take something up. We're common in phrasal verbs. They're common in idioms. Give him an inch and he'll take a mile. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Get lost. Get out of here. Get lost. Take a hike. In kind of colloquial English, take a hike is like get out of here, get lost. Run someone down. So similar to idioms, there's what's called collocations. This is a linguistic term. Kind of words that commonly occur together. Words that commonly occur together, especially in very common expressions or set expressions, fixed expressions, are called collocations. And there are different kinds of collocations. One common type is light verb collocations, where you've got a light verb and an object, like take a chance, take a bath, get married. Get is a light verb. Get married. Set her straight. Make a fuss. Make a mess. So common expressions are often built on light verbs. And while give can be used in a lot of different ways, sometimes in certain fixed expressions, you can't necessarily move it. So you could say, for example, it's common to use give very flexibly with different nuances, like Mary gave Tom a ball, or Mary gave a ball to Tom. Either way, just a slightly different nuance. But if you say Mary gave Tom a headache, that's kind of a special meaning. It's actually almost kind of idiomatic. You could maybe consider this an idiom. In fact, you could say Mary gave Tom a headache. It would be unusual to say Mary gave a headache to Tom. It's not impossible, it would just be unusual. And it would kind of change the meaning a bit. And you might do it for special effect, humorous effect, or for literary effect. Or something, but it's not normal to do that. So some of these idioms or collocations have a set order. So a lot of these are informal. Light verbs tend to be informal. So if you're doing academic writing, if you're writing a formal paper, you don't want to use give. You probably want to go to a thesaurus and find a more specific academic word, like donate or contribute or yield. But in kind of less formal contexts, if you're writing an email, you're giving a presentation, or you're doing an interview, these can be kind of useful. If you kind of remember these set of maybe there's a set of at least, I don't know, 10 or 12 core most common light verbs in English. This can be useful to kind of, what's the word? I want to say put. Okay, so these can be useful for that. There are, of course, I think just about any language has light verbs. In Korean, I can think of at least 3: hada, ita, nada. Nada as in nimse nayo, nimse nada. It's like, oh, maybe oda and kada. Should add that. Again, these have a lot of meanings. So, for example, ita is a light verb in Korean, and it doesn't have an exact counterpart in English. You look it up in English in a dictionary, and it gives you a bunch of different meanings in English. And so one thing I noticed, for example, I was doing a linguistic analysis of essays by Korean students writing in English and the native English speakers, American and British college students. And one thing I noticed is that Korean college students were using there is, there are a lot more in their writings than the native speakers. There's a perfectly good reason, because you're thinking of ita, which has a lot of meanings, like there is, there are, to exist, to be, to have, and probably a few others. And so you think they're thinking of the Korean ita and then just saying there is, there are in English. There is, there are is maybe less common in English. It's more informal. So if you use it too much, well, your essay might sound too informal. It'll sound very colloquial. We don't use it as much in formal English, especially in formal English. And in English, it's more like for kind of introducing a topic. In English, we use it for introducing a topic, something new, introducing a new topic. You look out your window and say, oh, there's a unicorn in the street. So you're introducing this new topic. There's a unicorn in the street. Hopefully you won't have to use that sentence. On my website, I've got a list of these characteristics of light verbs. And I want to give you a little task. I want to give you another task, a little Google form assignment about light verbs. Think of some common light verbs in English and just tell me what expressions can you think of use these verbs? What are examples of some phrasal verbs with these things? And what are some examples of idioms? What are examples of some idioms or set expressions, collocational expressions with these things? What can you think of? This is going to be like a little 10-point Google form, and I'll give you enough time because I know I've given you some other assignments, so I'll give you enough time to do this. So this is 2 Google forms. One is about your midterm, and you'll have more time to do that. And then maybe for this weekend, a little Google form about light verbs. I won't make it worth too much, 5 or 10 points, this one on light verbs. But just think of some examples of pick maybe a few light verbs in English and try to just think of how many examples do you know of this light verb in English. Particular expressions, idioms, phrasal verbs. And then send it to me in a Google form. I'll also put an assignment in the assignment space in the LMS, so you know that this is an assignment that's due. And then also maybe think of some light verbs in Korean or another language and tell me. Can you think of light verbs in other languages? Some of you are studying other languages or know other languages, so tell me. Any language is fine. I can add it to my collection of, I want to collect light verbs and I will add it to my collection. Think of like a language you know and what verbs in the language meet these criteria. The criteria are on the website, so you can look at that. So that will be a second homework assignment, a short one. I'll grade it mainly based on efforts. Just think of all the examples you can. I don't want you to spend time searching the internet for examples. Just think off the top of your head. Just think what comes to mind. Don't spend a lot of time looking. This is not going to be worth a lot. I just want you to think of some examples because these might be useful expressions for when you need to think of an expression. You're talking to someone in English and you need to think of an expression. Oh, well, maybe a light verb can help. These 2 assignments should keep you busy. The midterm preparation Google form, of course, is the more important one, and I'll give you more time for that. So enjoy your homework, and I will see you later. Goodbye.